So I am fifth generation East African born from Kenya, of Indian origin, but I grew up, for all intensive purposes, in country Victoria, in Bendigo, country town. So that really was where I guess my formative years evolved. I mean, I rode BMX bikes, I caught yabbies. I did more Aussie iconic things, I think, than what my children do, having grown up in the diverse metropolis of Melbourne. And that kind of grounding and experience often gives me an edge and advantage sometimes when I'm dealing with groups of people who have a certain perception about me, because the way I look doesn't correlate with how I sound. And that often turns a lot of people's heads, because they wonder, why do you sound like that? Or what accent is that? You know, and I'm like, country Victorian, actually. And they think I'm being a bit sassy, which I am. But it's essentially about acknowledging that we all come from somewhere, and the complexities of our backgrounds don't necessarily shape the stereotype of what we look like, and they shouldn't. So I'm constantly about debunking the myths, but I've sort of progressed and shifted from where I grew up in Bendigo and having to explain why I was brown to now having to justify or explain that I'm not oppressed, or I'm not someone's chattel or someone's possession. And so this constant need to be, as a woman, constantly defining who I am to others as if they have the authority, and to ask me who I am, and the knowledge which assumes so much about where I'm from. So I think the sort of social media or online engagement experience really took off for me with the onset of social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook, where suddenly, you know, you have armchair warriors and experts and Google scholars who are so informed apparently about me or my community and giving off their voice, and you have an option to either ignore or mute or respond. So more in a lot of cases where it's necessary for my well-being and mental health, I will mute and I will ignore. But sometimes it goes to the detriment of a community when you don't step up, because if you don't, then things escalate and they become the policy that govern us, and they become the hate crimes that are committed against a community as well. So you need to be active, you need to take a stand. My online presence has really been reactive for the most part, which is unfortunate, because for women of colour and people of colour in this country who have a long-standing presence, our contributions are varied. Our capacities are incredible as well. But we're only ever profiled and given a platform when there's a reactive situation. And that really colours the way that we're consumed and we're seen. So we're not really seen, therefore, to be as part of the existing fabric of Australia's population in a way that is the face of Australia. We're seen as the migrant other, or the exception, if we do succeed. And whenever I'm given a platform to present on The Drum, for example, which is a current affairs panel show on ABC, my involvement and my appearances on them aren't scheduled. They're very random, and they usually coincide with me being in Sydney. So it's not like they're looking for the Muslim voice on the issue of agriculture or, you know, toothpaste or whatever the topic is for the day. Yet there is a continuous response almost inevitably every time I'm on. Oh, ABC is getting on their favourite Muslim commentator, or keep away from the radical left wing, or what a sellout ABC is for always towing the left wing line and getting their token Muslim representative, blah, blah, blah. As if somehow my contribution can only be perceived in terms of my religiosity. And there are very few examples of where media representation of people of colour is genuinely meaningful and explores their personal contributions beyond the stereotype. We might have different stories to tell, but we're all equal as storytellers. Until we can shift those numbers and then shift the face and perception of what diversity should look like, I really don't think we're going to get there. And we do know that in terms of shifting numbers with gender diversity, there's a conversation being had, and it is underway. But I don't accept the premise, which has been thrown back to me, is that, we have to get the gender diversity right before we move to culture. Because I feel people that espouse that particular point of view are the same people who made the demarcations for women back from 1950s, where you have to wait your turn until we're ready, and you stay in your lane until then. And when it's acceptable, you can come up to the table. And so now people of colour, women of colour, are being told, well, just hush. We're still getting the numbers right for the white girls, and then once we get them, we'll talk about. And so I find that very patronising and just reinforcing the whole culture of a discrimination, really. I guess one issue that I did respond to quite proactively was there was recently a a tour announced of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who's a Somali-born Dutch activist whose mantra is that she's an ex-Muslim, and she does a lot of this touring circuit across the world, speaking against Islam and speaking against the oppression of women, Muslim women specifically, and how promoting the reformation of Islam and the abolishing of Islamic schools and curbing migration, and like a whole lot of very extremist, conservative, anti-Muslim propaganda and policy. And she's given a lot of the kudos because she was, as she describes, an ex-Muslim. She was planning to come to Australia, and there were a group of Muslim women in Australia who were concerned not that she was going to speak, but that she was going to speak without a counterpoint. So one of the women in this organisation, or this group that was loosely affiliated, contacted her and said, look, Ayaan, we know you're coming and we know you've got speaking gigs. We would like you to give us some of your time. You can choose the venue, you can choose the moderator, you can choose the place, whatever it is, that's up to you. We just want to have an opportunity to speak to you. She said no. Then we found out that she was going to be on Q&A on a Monday. And so between Friday and Monday, this group of women, with the help of production team, decided to do a video response to Ayaan to explain why she didn't speak for us even though she was coming to speak for us. That was the essence of the message. Not that she shouldn't speak, but her story is her story, sort of thing. That was loosely the message. And so within 48 hours, we made this video and we launched it at 9 a.m. And then by 10 a.m, there was a message that Ayaan had cancelled her Australian tour. She'd cancelled Q&A. And we were like thinking, well, how impacting was this video? Her management had cited security concerns. It wasn't security concerns, it was monetary concerns. She had a disagreement with her promoter on her fee. And so she was cancelled. But the impact of that video, which I think it included about 6 women from across Melbourne of different backgrounds, each of them speaking a line that was telling a story. I think within 24 hours it had reached over 1 million hits globally. It got a lot of negative trolling, of course, from people who felt we were the reason she wasn't coming and we were blocking free speech and we didn't believe in her message because we were part of the conspiracy to dominate the world or something. That was actually inevitably going to happen, but what I didn't expect, which was really positive, was so many Muslim women who I don't even know and will never meet, who said thank you for giving voice to a community that has for so long had its voice hijacked by the right-wing conservative community, and for specifically countering her hateful narrative, which doesn't leave room for a counter-response. And sometimes just something as simple as utilising social media to give yourself a platform to counteract all the hate. I know we were just lucky, or if it was purely Facebook, wasn't even YouTube, but somehow it just went viral in a good way. It wears me down sometimes just to wake up every morning and think, what kind of conundrum am I going to have to fight today? What am I going to read about? Which journalist is going to ring me up for a comment on what? It's like the lottery of bad news sometimes. But then I try to balance it out and sort of think of the gains that we have made, and it's whether it's storytelling and how that heals, or women who have made it, women who, despite the odds and the obstacles, speak out, sometimes get shot down, but they get supported on the ground. And solidarity of sometimes just knowing that what you're doing is the decent thing to do. Even if you're not getting rewarded or applauded, it's not about that. It's just about, sleeping at night and making the world a better place little bit by little bit for those after you. If you have the privilege of having space to speak, or if you have more than you need and enough to share, then share it. If you've been given an opportunity or a promotion at work and you have the scope to bring someone on, do it. If you see somebody from your community, for example, who's struggling to rise up and you have the capacity to help them out, do it. Don't be afraid. And women in particular, unfortunately, can sometimes be some of the greatest enactors of holding that space because they're scared of losing what they've gained. But instead, I think we need to really give that hand out a lot more than what we're doing. And it's not a handout, it's a hand up. It really is. And I think we don't do that enough as a race and as a community. And someone once brilliantly said, minorities in this community don't lack talent, they just lack opportunity. So I think, once you get into a place of privilege, you have an obligation to open the door.